We're here with Jason Hernandez from Jason Andrew Designs, and I'm going to interview you and just ask you a few questions on art and design, see what you think. So tell me, what do you think are some of the things that define regional sensibilities in art and design?
Well, that's kind of an interesting question for me, to be honest, because my background really isn't in art and design. It's really mostly about craft and craftsmanship. My background is furniture making and woodworking, and that is really was the total foundation of all the work that I do. So my path has really just been learning how to make well as I go along, and it wasn't until recently that I started to really even think about what my work meant, what it meant in artistic terms, and sense. Like this table I'm working on now is probably one of the most, probably one of the things I put most thought into what that meant for me and what art meant for me and what it is that I'm actually doing with my work. But until now, I think I got by quite a bit on craftsmanship and ability, and that may have some thing to do with coming from the Northwest in a sense, because of so much woodwork that happens. I mean, just with American Indians and just the abundance of the material, and that has always been something that's been fascinating to me. So probably because of being from the Northwest, woodworking, that just kind of drove me into this. But I have to say, giving it, really relating it to the Northwest in a region is difficult to really do for my work personally.
But it sounds like you're saying it has something to do with some of the materials and processes that influence the sensibility of this region, right?
That's definitely what has influenced me coming from the Northwest, most likely, I would say.
So what are some of the regional influences that have informed your work since you've started working here in the Northwest?
Well, it's a bit of a circle. You know, I was born in Seattle, raised in Seattle, and ended up going to California for my woodworking training. And at that school that I went to, it was really defined by craft, really defined by making things and making them well. Not necessarily so much about design and the look of it. It was all sort of guided by the person who ran the program, James Hernandez. And his work was very Scandinavian. You wouldn't call it necessarily mid-century modern, but it was his sort of take on Scandinavian furniture. Being from Sweden or living in Sweden for a long period of time and working with cabinet makers and furniture makers there, that is the work that he brought. So that was what I was exposed to, my first look into sort of design, what things were to be and what they were going to look like. But that wasn't really what the school was about. It was about making, and you sort of use that as your tool to learn how. And then leaving the school, I sort of kind of went on in that same tradition, making the same type of work. It was very nice, very clean work, and fun to make. But eventually, I started to be more pulled in a different direction. It was time to do something a little bit different. And at that point, I started to work more with pattern and kind of repetition. It was just sort of a language that spoke to me, I guess, in a sense. But it really began by starting with a form that I was working on, and I was working with something that, in traditional woodworking terms, would be a shaped item that then I would veneer and put this, beautiful wood on the outside and just cover everything up, all that work that was underneath. And I just decided that I didn't want to do it. I left that veneer off and really worked with that brick blade pattern that you would see on the edge of this coffee table I was working on. So I think, to come back around to that question, I think just craftsmanship and work and making things well and enjoying the material a little bit more, I think that has a lot to do with the Northwest. I think it definitely does. Like we were talking about before, just the abundance of wood and that influence and the people who were working on it and the traditional craftsmen who were working with that material.
So you think that has influenced you a lot?
Definitely.